Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you're joining us from. I'm Isabel Nolan. I'm the program manager for the Startup Women and Startup Global programs at Startup Canada. And you're very welcome to our Startup Women's Industry Advisory Circle for Women in Sustainability. To begin, I'd like to acknowledge that the land on which I'm on today is located on the unceded and traditional territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh Nations, also known as Vancouver. We also acknowledge with respect the diverse histories and cultures of all Indigenous people, and I encourage you to take a moment to acknowledge the traditional territory that you're residing on today. Today's session is being recorded, and we will add it to our resource guide along with any resources shared during today's session. A little bit about Startup Canada. We're a national nonprofit that is the gateway to Canada's entrepreneur ecosystem. We're here to connect entrepreneurs with the support, community, and tools that they need to build a successful business in Canada. Since launching in 2012, Startup Canada has grown to support more than 130,000 entrepreneurs annually in an ever-growing community of ecosystem partners from coast to coast to coast. Dedicated to showing up for women all year round, Startup Women is an annual program offering support for early-stage women-identifying entrepreneurs across Canada with topic-focused webinars, industry advisory circles like this, and meetings with startup women leaders. You know that when you support women, you support a nation. These monthly industry advisory circles will provide attendees with a deeper understanding of trends and best practices in their sector and leave with actionable takeaways and resources that you can implement into your business. Just a reminder, because this is a Zoom meeting, everyone's super welcome to keep their cameras on and kind of be face-to-face with myself and all of our speakers. But if you're not speaking, just to make sure that you're on mute as to not disrupt the rest of the folks in the room. Okay, so firstly, I'd love to introduce Tara Redmond. They're the Vice President of Buildings and Systems Engineering at UPS Canada, to share a few words about UPS. They're one of our co-presenting partners. So Tara, I'll pass it over to you.
All right, great. Thanks, Isabel, for that introduction, and good day, everyone. Let me begin by thanking Startup Canada. We have been a partner with Startup for many years because of their commitment to supporting entrepreneurs. Not only does Startup Canada provide tools, advisory support, government networks, they have provided a community and an ecosystem to help entrepreneurs succeed. And we are really excited to see how we can continue to make impact together. As a global company that operates in more than 200 countries and territories, UPS has seen how climate change, air quality, and other socioeconomic challenges intersect. And that's why UPS is committed to carbon neutrality by 2050 and set some clear goals and plans to reduce emissions across our operations. Our aim is to achieve a lower carbon footprint in a financially and socially responsible manner. And we have some milestones along the way that include a 50% reduction in CO2 per package delivered by 2035 and 40% of alternative fuel used in our global ground operations by 2025. To date, UPS has driven more than 3 billion miles using alternative fuels worldwide. And meeting our goal involves using a mix of compressed natural gas and electrical vehicles on the road. UPS Canada is excited to welcome 20 new electric vehicles to our hubs in Ontario and BC this year. And the one thing we know for sure is that the path to carbon neutrality is not an easy one. Technology and innovation play a significant role, and there's still so much for us all to learn. And so whether you're a multinational company like UPS or just starting out, a sustainability mindset is going to be very important for all of our futures. So thanks again to Startup Canada for bringing everyone together today, and I'm looking forward to discussion.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Tara, and thank you for being here today as well. We have a short message also from our other co-presenting partner, the Scotiabank Women's Initiative. So we're just going to go ahead and play that video clip now.
The Scotiabank Women Initiative is dedicated to your success on your terms.
I'm shaping our industry's vision for the future. I can expand my business without borrowing from my family.
I know I can face anything thanks to my network.
I'm ready for my next chapter.
I'm inspiring future leaders.
I'm making sure my family's future is secure.
Define your success, and we'll help you achieve it. With unbiased access to capital and tailored solutions, bespoke specialized education, and holistic advisory services and mentorship. Join our community of women today, the Scotiabank Women Initiative.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Also a massive shout out to our other partners as well. Without all of our partners' support, we really just we wouldn't be able to be doing what we're doing. So of course, to our co-presenting partners, UPS and Scotiabank Women's Initiative, our program partners, EDC, Mastercard and YSpace, and our community of ecosystem partners. There's a lot of them, so I'll add a full list of them in the Zoom chat as well. So as I mentioned, we are doing a session for women in sustainability, and I'm very excited to dive into today's discussion. To sort of take you through attendees, what the next sort of hour and a half or so will look like. So in a moment, I'll actually pass the microphone over to you and ask you to do a quick introduction of yourself. You can either do this on camera or in the chat, whatever you're most comfortable with. If your camera is on, I'll assume you're comfortable introducing yourself, and I'll start sort of listing out the names that I see on screen. So let us know what your name is, where you're located, and either a sentence about your business or what you're hoping to get out of today's discussion. It allows us, both myself and our speakers, to know who's in the room so we can best cater to your needs. Then we'll move on to our entrepreneur expert talks. So we have, they'll have about 5 minutes each, and we'll have 2 of these. And then we'll open it up to our panel discussion. So we have some questions drafted, but you'll hear me say this a few times, but we really want to encourage attendee engagement. So if you have any questions at all, we will prioritize them. So again, you can do this by coming on camera, asking your question face to face, or in the chat or in the Q&A box, and whatever you're most comfortable with. And finally, we'll go into our networking breakout rooms. So these are smaller breakout rooms. We'll do probably 2 at about 15 minutes each. And this is a great way for you to connect with the other attendees that are here today. Presumably you're all working within the sustainability space. And we'll also have our speakers in there as well, in case there was any question that you didn't feel comfortable asking in the larger room. You can ask in these smaller spaces. And these aren't recorded at all, so they're completely private. Okay, so we will get started with our attendee introductions, and I'm seeing some faces on screen, which is always wonderful. So thank you so much for turning your cameras on. The first person I have is Parisa.
Hi, my name is Parisa Sabet. I live in Aurora, Ontario. And I'm actually, I have an online educational resource, No Need to Vanish, which is about music technology, and it's for music makers. Thank you.
Thank you, Parisa. Next up, we have Tam.
Hey, Isabel. Hey, everyone. So good to see you all. My name is Tam. I'm calling from Montreal. My work is in the intersection of career development and social innovation. So basically, I work with people going through career transition toward being social entrepreneurs and change makers. So I facilitate system thinking, which is one of the very important skills in sustainability and SDGs. And in the meantime, also work to facilitate some sustainability initiatives as well. So looking forward to get to know everyone.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Tom. Next, I have Golden.
Hi, my name's Golden Johnson. I'm a founder of House of Gold Refining Studio. I have over a decade of enhancing businesses, leaders, change makers into their legacy. So I'm also a legacy coach and love to be here, love to learn more about what's going on in this workshop.
Thank you, Golden. Jennifer.
Hi, I'm Jennifer. I'm also from Montreal, and I am making zero-waste, plastic-free pet toys with natural materials that can be composted at the end of the life. It's called The Kind Pet, and I guess that's it.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Aaliyah.
Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you all. I'm happy to be here. My name is Aaliyah Lahai. I'm calling out of New Brunswick, and I have a startup called Game Hair, and we're looking to disrupt the synthetic hair industry with its waste and also health impacts. And so I'm developing plant-based biodegradable hair products, everything from extensions to also dyes, etc., that are all natural based. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Thank you so much. Heidi.
Hi, you beautiful women, self-identified women, all startups. Thank you. I've been writing all these copious notes. It's been great to learn from all of you. We are here in beautiful Nova Scotia on the Bay of Fundy, transplanted from Ontario. Starting a agritourism business, but a wellness and about land stewardship and about just slowing down. Yeah, thank you. I mean, I'm learning so much already from like writing down everything that you're doing. So thank you. That's me. It's us.
Thanks, Heidi. And not to put you on the spot, Heidi, but Heidi is our Nova Scotia representative for our Startup Women Advocacy Network for 2024. So if you'd like to learn more about Heidi and the work that they're doing, we'll have more information in the next couple of weeks. But thank you so much for being here, Heidi. All right, next up we have Punita.
Hi, I'm from New Brunswick, and I'm developing a digestive candy that helps to strengthen the digestive process by activating the secretion of digestive juices. So it is a plant-based product, which we all know that is very healthy for your gut health, and it has no side effects so far. And I'm developing this product, and I'm working with the CSK Kitchen, which is in PEI, and they're going to form my candy. And then after that, I will be launching my first product in biofood tech company, which is also in PEI. And I'm just learning more about the webinars and the formation of the business through the startup. And I thank you, all of you, for doing such a great job and encouraging women. And so far, I've been so much encouraged by the women that there are times that I would not like to do my work, but somebody from somewhere, I get the help of the women, and I just keep on going. So I thank you very much for everything you all are doing. And hopefully when my product is in the market, people would benefit from it, and I'm just open to hear more from the people for their feedback and what the people need for me to do any changes in my product, and would like more products from me. I would just would be very, very open to know the feedback and the feelings, what the people, they feel about my product.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Punita. And yeah, hopefully we can provide you some guidance and support with that. So thank you for being here. Next up, we have Katrina.
Hi, my name is Katrina. I'm based in Mississauga, just a little bit west from Toronto, and I run a company called Core Sales Inc. With our logo of biodisposables. I operate in the space of providing R&D, manufacturing biodegradable compostables. So in food packaging, demo, and sampling materials, that's all BPI certified.
Wonderful. Thank you, Katrina. Paula.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Glad to be here. Hi, everyone. My name is Paula Olavarria. I'm currently based in Toronto. As you can tell, I do have a strong accent because I'm a newcomer. I moved to Canada like 2.5 years ago. I do have a rich background linked to management consulting, and I'm just getting involved in startups. So happy to be here and being able to get to know each of you and your very interesting entrepreneurs.
Thank you so much, Paula. Melanie.
Hello, everyone. I'm Melanie. I'm just outside of Montreal, so nice to meet some others in this region. I co-founded a company called Volition. We're a startup advisory firm, but I'm also undergoing some career transitions and want to apply a sustainability lens to those transitions, as I come from a background of being an environmental technician back in a decade or so ago. So Tam, I made note of what you do. Very interested to talk to you. So thanks for having me here. I'm excited to be a part of this conversation.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Melanie. Melanie and I used to work together. So it's great to see some familiar faces and some new faces here today. If there's anyone else that would like to come on screen to introduce themselves, please take this moment to do that. But I also want to reiterate that, yeah, there's some fantastic minds in this room. And even if you aren't a designated speaker, if you feel you can contribute to the conversation, if you had advice for someone, if they've asked a question, please feel free to jump in. We're all here to learn from each other and to knowledge share. So this is a room for everyone to learn from one another. So please feel comfortable to do that. Okay, so it looks like we have everyone introduced. So I will now introduce who our speakers are. So speakers, maybe you can give a little bit of a wave when I introduce you. So we have Sarah Graham, who is the Chief Innovation Officer and co-founder of Light One. We have Ashima Chopra, who is a lawyer, founder, and angel investor, and works with Spring Activator. So I'm going to invite each of them to share a little bit about their journey within the sustainability space. So Sarah, I'm going to invite you to kick things off for us.
Hi, everyone. I'm so happy to be here. You guys are really impressive, and I already want to talk to so many of you about your ideas. Thanks for joining, and a little bit about my journey. I'm the co-founder and Chief Innovation Officer at Light One, where we're transforming the color industry from a toxic and petroleum-dependent industry into a clean and circular one. So we do this by growing high-performance sustainable dyes from bacteria. And my journey to get here was very nonlinear. I always wanted to be a fashion designer, but it wasn't until I entered the industry that I was confronted with the impact that fashion has on the planet and the people that are working within its systems. So I learned that 80% of a garment's environmental impact is decided at the design stage, and so much of that impact comes from the materials that we choose. So this led me to dive deep into material innovation, and I focused on sourcing new sustainable materials and bringing them into the brands that I was working for. But then I eventually found myself so much more inspired by the material innovations than the garment design that I was doing. And I felt I wanted to be on the other side of that and being the one who was driving these new innovations instead of implementing others' ideas into my designs. So I didn't know what that looked like at all. I did some research and I found a truly one-of-a-kind master's program in England. It was at Central St. Martin's called the Masters of Material Futures. So here I was introduced to so many new ideas of how we can think about the world and our future. And one of these ideas was biodesign and working with living systems to design novel materials and systems, which honestly changed my entire life. I never really felt that I could fit into the boxes of the careers that were presented to me as a young person. And I was always pulled between like science and the arts. And these two disciplines were always presented as so separate and like having no crossover, or almost like they were opposites that I had to choose between them. But here I found that I could mesh the sciences and the arts not as opposites, but as complementary areas. So I was able to build this really multidisciplinary mindset, which I think now is one of my biggest strengths in the position that I'm in now. And as a designer, I had to talk my way into some really incredible microbiology labs across the UK. And I was learning science by practice, but always with a focus on microbial materials. Since then, I've been hooked on bacteria and all of the amazing things that they do for us and what they can do. I met my co-founder, Roya, and hearing her similar journey of discovery with biodesign, we knew that we had to come together to pioneer a company like this in Canada. And this company is like the aligning of all of my interests and extensive experiences that I've collected along my life and my career. And now I'm leading an incredible team of experts at Light One in areas like synthetic biology and organic chemistry, microbiology, and still design. And this gives me an opportunity to never stop exploring and learning and driving this innovation that we as a collective at Light One are so passionate about.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your journey, Sarah. And yeah, we're going to dive a lot more deeper into all the things for our discussion. But I'll pass it now over to Ashima to share her story.
Yes, thank you, Sarah, for sharing about Light One. So excited to meet all of you, and very similar sentiments to Sarah that I can't wait to learn more about what you're doing and get to know each of you. So I find this actually question really fascinating, because for me, the best way to talk about my own journey is through storytelling, and how me being a lawyer, a founder, and an angel investor are all combined. So when I was a lawyer, one of my work experiences landed me in East Africa, specifically in Tanzania. And so I was working in Tanzania with the government of Canada on and off for about 3 years. And while I was working in Tanzania, there was a small shop called Tatu Rafiki. So from Swahili to English, that translates into 3 tailors. And there were 3 deaf tailors. So what this shop does is they repurpose material and stitch one-of-a-kind apparel using kitenge, which is like African wax print fabric. And so these products are not only like colorful and vibrant, they're also environmentally sustainable, because upcycling is really a key part of their business model. And so fast forward, the pandemic hits, and I received like a WhatsApp message from one of the tailors talking about how their business is struggling, and they're really needing help and support. So despite being halfway across the world, totally different time zones, my Swahili then, my Swahili now is not exactly the best. So I remember like using Google to like translate, all of the things that I was saying in English into Swahili. We were able to build a successful partnership through the business that I had started during the pandemic. So I remember our first shipment, it consisted of like 110 masks, half of which were donated to 6 different organizations. And globally now to date, we've distributed over like 2,500 masks, sustainably made bomber jackets, backpacks, quilts, all the rest of it. And again, thinking about, being an angel investor, which at that time, I don't even think I had the verbiage of what it meant to be an angel investor, and me investing what was $100 at the time has now turned into like nearly 30K in profits for Tatu Rafiki. And I was, again, really thinking about this question about like my story and what I've learned through it. And I think there are three main pillars. One being that business can coexist, that business and heart can coexist and still make money. I always think of that in tandem with this idea of like, I don't think it's impact versus returns, but impact and returns. I'm also learning that, you know, in my journey as an angel investor, the most meaningful investments are ones that not only generate financial returns, but also create positive change. And coming to like today, coming to this conversation with all of you, the importance of opportunities, whether that's in building your business or whoever the stakeholders that you're speaking to, how do these conversations align with your beliefs, your core values, and really partnering and choosing people to work with that are aligned with your vision for the future of you as a founder, but also for your business. So I think like in summary, I mean, you know, despite us defying distance and time zones and language barriers to build a plan, it really, partnering with Tatra Rafiki was like allowing us to showcase craftsmanship. It was a commitment to sustainability. It was aligned with my core values. And I feel like it's really impacted and influenced my journey in VC, in business, in entrepreneurship, and of course in angel investing as well.
Thank you so much for sharing your journey, Ashima. I see another attendee also lived in Tanzania. So maybe you can connect offline with Golden. But I loved what you said there, business and heart can coexist with money. I think that's a fantastic way of looking at it, because I mean, a lot of businesses are, of course, there are solution-based, but a lot of mostly sustainability businesses have that focus because the founder has a connection to this and truly believes that this is something that needs to be solved. And so I think that that's a very important statement for talking about businesses with a sustainability focus. So thank you very much for that. All right, we are going to move into our panel discussion segment now. And as I mentioned, I have a few questions drafted for, well, I have a lot of questions drafted for our speakers, but I truly want our attendees to feel comfortable in asking questions. I'll start one to kick the conversation off, to kind of maybe warm up the room. But if you have a question at all, you can use the raise hand feature on Zoom, and we'll go right to your question. But this, so Sarah, I'll go to you first for this, but can you maybe talk about some of the key challenges that you faced in the early stages and how you came them in regards to starting a sustainability focused business?
Yes. So when your business is designed to disrupt the status quo, which, you know, sustainability or impact driven businesses are, right? We're seeing something that's being done that we can do better, and we can do it better for the planet and for humanity. So you're disrupting. And so you're always going to have a harder time getting those things done than if you just kind of slot it into how everything is currently being done. But I think it's important to also see these as exciting opportunities for innovation, and remember why you are starting these companies when you're in these challenges. So for us, there's been, like, I think at every stage, I could say there's a challenge around sustainability, but I think one that really stands out is the inputs that we have into our product. So for example, when we're growing our bacteria, we're needing to feed it specific nutrients to have it grow and create this colorful compound that we then turn into a dye. So we could source different ingredients that are being used currently, but then looking at the environmental impact, it's important for us to have a fully circular business. And so sourcing these nutrients instead of from a science supply company, we're sourcing it from industrial waste streams in agriculture. So that's a big challenge because now we're building new supply chains that haven't existed before, and working with people who are in the agricultural sector to sort of build that and understanding what these new requirements are for their waste. Another example in that same area would be in our formulations. So we take the color that the bacteria makes, and then we formulate it into a product that is a dye for textiles, for paints, eventually cosmetics and food. So we have to think about where all of these external parts that are coming into our dye formula are also sourced from. And when you look at the petroleum-based products, they've had hundreds of years to refine and get to this perfect product, right? So it's easy to just take that because we know it works, it's already there, but that's not our business focus. So now we need to think outside of that box and source these from nature. We may need to, we've found, design and build them ourselves. So there's, I think, a lot of, material sourcing is definitely a challenge when you are looking at all of these other supply chains. They get more complicated and more complicated as you go out. But I think it's important to remember this is a journey. So you might have, our end goal is to be fully circular, to use the, like whole, sustainable, everything from every angle, even the factories that we're using, where their energy is coming, all of that stuff. But you can't jump from the beginning right to there. So making those like sustainability milestones and understanding you're working towards better and better and better and better is important for you not to get discouraged, I think. Or for us not to get discouraged in my situation.
Thank you, Sarah. Yeah, it seems, when you're working within this space, you are more than likely coming up with something that is brand new or like very innovative. So I feel like that's there are challenges that are applicable to a lot of folks within this space. So thank you for sharing. Ashima, I want to sort of toss it back over to you as well in terms of with entrepreneurs that you work with or that are pitching to you, what are there any other key factors or challenges that they're facing, and how are you supporting them through that, or how would you advise them to go through those?
Yeah, really, really great question. So I think first I would start with building upon what Sarah mentioned, which is the piece on education. One of the things that I've really encountered in supporting and advising and working with a lot of early stage women founders is, how do I communicate or translate or express how disruptive what I'm building and doing is and why it's so needed? Like, I think there's always the question of, as a founder, why are you the one to build the solution? But I think there's also that education piece around the problem itself. And so that's like one factor I would say. The second factor that I would also mention is impact thesis and measurement. So specifically, how are you measuring the impact? So like the outcomes and outputs. And also, once again, how are you translating that? Whether that's through numbers and metrics, whether that's through identifying in various parts of the supply chain what the impact stats are and how you're measuring impact, whether that's even on a more granular level in showing that changes that you're making, that your product and your solution is creating and affecting global impact in XYZ way. So one of the, and I'll actually just share this in the chat. There's like this resource that I think is really interesting on measuring, again, just like measuring impact, how to calculate it, how to calculate specifically greenhouse gas emissions. And so I think like specifically on that second piece of impact measurement, I would get really comfortable as a founder in creating a theory of change and being able to model how a theory of change is created. This is something, I mean, Isabel highlighted it in, for example, our spring impact investor challenges. we provide a template for how to model a theory of change, how to create a theory of change. And that's actually something that's included, let's say when you're building your data room, that the investors in our program have access to again, think about returns, but think about how the founder and the company is measuring impact and communicating that in focusing on impact, in creating impact in this way, we're also generating financial returns. So yes, there are of course the positive changes that are being created in what you're building, and also there's returns at the end of the day with it. And then back to just like quickly the first piece on education, I think that in just so many founders that I talk to, you have to get so comfortable and clear that not everyone is going to understand what you're building. So how do you communicate to a diverse set of stakeholders what you're creating, what you're building, and why you're doing it? I think, Light One is such a great example of this being such a disruptor, like systemically a disruptor in the DI space. There is a big education and mindset shift and switch that happens when it comes to communicating that to stakeholders. So I would explore that. And I think those are really the two pieces, is like education and then impact measurement and how you're communicating and translating that to a diverse set of stakeholders.
Your first comment hit so close to home, because when Roy and I started, we're first-time founders. And so, we're talking about our business from our perspective of what we find exciting and important. And it's like, this is, do you get it? We're working with bacteria to create high performance, like sustainable, circular, cool colors. Like, why don't you get what we're saying? But it's because we were talking, in our language instead of understanding who our audience was, which a lot of the time at the beginning, it was investors, and they're like, okay, how are you making money? And we're like, no, you don't get it. It's going to change the world. So it took a while to like reframe and understand, okay, it's not, that people don't care, but we also have to have a business case. We knew, okay, this is what we're doing. It's going to, this is where we're going. We have that understanding, but it was the communication of it was really took a little bit of learning to get there. So that first point is so important, to know who you're talking to and like how to speak to them about your ideas for them to be on that same page as you.
Love that. Thank you so much, both. And I should also mention there's a nice link between Sarah and Ashima, because Light One actually received investment through the Spring Investor Impact Challenge. Can I maybe ask you both to speak on that? Maybe Sarah, you first, what that process looked like for you.
Yeah, so it was a really good experience comparing to a lot of our previous investment experiences or investor experiences, because a lot of the times you're, pitching to an investor and it's a yes or a no. They don't really give you any feedback. So if they say no, it's like, okay, you're too early. But we heard that from people who say they invest in ideas, all the way to, people who are saying they're doing pre-seed, like what is too early? That's not really, a description in any way. Give us like concrete things to build towards. Or if you had a question that you didn't understand the way we spoke about it, like let us explain, because we understand our business, right? But with the Spring Challenge, it was so interactive with groups of investors. And it was so much work. I'm not going to lie, because every week you're like meeting and we ended up at the end having like a document of 52 pages of back and forth question and answers with the investors. So on the one hand, it was a lot of work and a lot of time. On the other hand, it was this new opportunity for us to really make sure that the investors we're talking to, who are making decisions about whether they're going to fund our business or not, truly understand what we know about our company. And if there was a question that maybe our answer wasn't what they were looking for or didn't answer fully, instead of being like, okay, no, we got to dig in deep and really like communicate. So it brought down that wall, and we could also see how investors think. because it was kind of like a black box before. So it was really good in that interaction between us and investors, and learning about, we even took a lot of what we learned and then went on to raise more capital using those things. So yeah, it was long, but it was very fruitful and helpful in a lot of ways.
Amazing. It sounds like you probably learned a lot about your business as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of it was like learning how to put it into words that were then useful. You know, we could take that piece and send it to the other investor who asked that same question. You know, it was great to understand what points we need to explain more and dig into that and have that answer now.
Thank you. And Ashima, from like the other side of it, can you maybe share with attendees today a little bit more about the program and you know, the support that it's giving entrepreneurs like Sarah and her co-founder, and the outcomes that they might expect from it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the way Sarah described it is super, super apt. Sarah and Roya like are brilliant founders, and they were truly dedicated and invested in the program. It's a lot of work. And so there are a few things that I would say. One thing is our impact investor challenges go beyond a pitch competition, in the sense of there's like the FAQs and being able to actually speak in real time to investors. There is conducting the actual due diligence process. So while you get to meet the investors, have these dedicated focused times to talk about your business, get into the nitty-gritty about your business, the investors are also learning about what types of questions they should be asking you towards that completion of an investment memo, which, I mean, so many of our past winners have gone on to use and continue to use in conversations that they have with stakeholders. So I think I'm currently the manager of our current Women-Led Impact Investor Challenge. And this is, I want to say, our like 15th Impact Investor Challenge and our third installment of the Women-Led. So usually there is that beginning portion called an investment readiness catalyst, i.e. it's almost like a boot camp program for founders. And so they learn pitching, they learn negotiation, they learn how to set up their data room. They're provided with bespoke legal and financial support, of course, totally free of cost for the founders. And then they go through this cohort, this due diligence process with investors. Finally, at the end, there being that one winner. The reason why I almost use air quotes in saying one winner is because time and time again, we've seen the top 5, the top 15 continue to have conversations with the investors in the program, continue to be able to leverage the fact that they were part of the Impact Investor Challenge and what they learned. And so I think it's like what is important for Spring, and like truly like what is important, I think, for like me as a manager and my role in like life is like, how can I support you through the program, but also beyond the program? Like what types of connections and referrals and networks and communities can I provide to really set you up for success? And so I feel like that's at the crux of the Impact Investor Challenge, at the crux of Spring, at the crux of like my role and job, is to be able to set you and your business up for success. Yes, through this 8 to 9 week program, but also beyond that in the connections and the community and the referrals, the guidance, the advisory, the support that you can really be able to like use and leverage throughout your journey as a founder.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Ashima. And yeah, we've shared a link in the chat as well if you'd like to learn more about that. But it truly sounds like an in-depth experience and learning that you can take beyond the few weeks that it is. So I wanted to talk a little bit about starting out your business. It sounds like a lot of folks are in the early stages of starting their business within the sustainability sector. So to both Sarah and Ashima, what advice do you have for these founders, particularly in terms of building a network, to help them along the way, or accessing funding, which I'm sure a lot of people are always looking for answers to. So Sarah, maybe I'll go to you first, in terms of what sort of network did you build around you to support you, and then maybe going on to the funding avenues you went down. Oh, I think you're on mute.
I'm sorry. The network. So for me, it has been imperative that I had Roya, like my co-founder. I couldn't have done it without her, and she could have done it without me. Like there's so much that relationship has been like, yeah, I can't describe how important that is, to have that person beside you that's going through the same things, that you can support when they're, we have those ebbs and flows of like bad days or too much stress or really high days, and you can kind of balance each other off, as well as splitting the work and, having that just partner in crime beside you. So that's been really important to me. And then a lot of the ways that we've built the network, and also which has instigated the access to funding, has been doing business accelerators. At the beginning, we just applied to everything that we could possibly do and did as much as we could. And that helped us to get that foundation, which then we were able to be more choosy and, like really go after ones, understanding what's going to be the best use of our time. But at the beginning, that was really important for us, especially as first-time founders, to like get into this business world, because it was kind of like, I had thought about being an entrepreneur, but I didn't know what that whole world, it's like a whole new world when you go into this and you're like, whoa, this is very different than a lot of the ways that I've worked before. So that was really helpful. I think that understanding what success means for you, because everybody's business is success is different. Not everyone has to have a global company that's, trying to make $1 million to $1 billion, right? Like success, there's very important, impactful small businesses that like are just as successful as, huge global ones. So understanding what success for your company looks like, and then that will allow you to have those people around you and join those networks that will facilitate that and really help with that. And with the funding, also grants were so helpful for us. So there are a lot of grants out there. It's hard to find sometimes, and it's very time consuming. So if you can start by putting grants together, saving those, and then the next one, really pull from that, even using like ChatGPT to feed it your grants and then have it like answer some of the other grant questions for you, can be really helpful in getting as many grant applications out as possible, because that's non-dilutive funding that you can have access to early. So that's been very helpful. I think those are the main things, and understanding when you need to fundraise or if you need to fundraise. Like it's so incredibly time consuming. It's so emotionally draining, and you're going to have lots of bad experiences. You're going to have lots of good experiences. It's just like a roller coaster. But if you don't need that money, like there's no really reason to go through that, right? If your business can be bootstrapped, or your business can be funded through grants, or you can slowly grow, then you don't necessarily have to directly go for fundraising, I think.
Yeah, absolutely, Sarah. And yeah, like you said, there's so many different avenues you can go down for funding, and you don't necessarily have to take that leap to investors, because then of course that's all equity. I will say though, to grants, in terms of finding them, I'll forever hype up this this company, but it's called Pocketed, and it helps you in finding grants that are applicable to you and your business. We'll share a link for them in the chat, but they also have grant writers as well that you can use. So of course, grant writing, I'm sure there's some people in the room that know it's like a full-time job itself. So that's a great resource if you are looking for grants. Like Sarah said, it's free money. So if you can find one to sort of help you with funding your journey, then absolutely do that. Ashima, how about yourself in terms of you know, the type of network or people that you've surrounded yourself with, and funding avenues.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, yeah, literally +1 on everything Sarah said. Also, in terms of, you know, you talking about pocketed and grants, I think one of the first things is exploring opportunities for non-dilutive funding. And while you're exploring those opportunities, getting clear on when is the right time for you and your business to do a raise, to explore other alternative methods of accessing capital. I think it can be very easy, and I've had a number of conversations with founders on this. It can be very easy to get caught up in the FOMO of various different incubators, accelerators, and participating in different incubators and accelerators, which is why it is so clear to get clarity, and why it's so important to focus on what are the goals of your business and how is this incubator accelerator going to actually contribute towards what you're doing. And I think that relationship and like that linkage is so important to get clarity on as you're starting to build your business. The reason why I also say that is because being a founder, and I'm sure all of you know this, it's such an iterative, evolving process and such a dynamic process. Like truly, I think of founders as almost day-to-day operators and understanding the navigability around your business. Like some days it's going to be super cloudy. Some days, you know, there's going to be rain. Like it's like understanding the landscape of your business and then building relationships, building networks, building communities aligned with your values and aligned with the values of your business, I think are so, so important. Also knowing that in a year's time, it may change. Your goals might change, what you want might change, the direction that your business is moving in might change, and that's okay. And then the other thing that I would say, and this is maybe like an interesting take, because I'm such a resource geek and nerd, we'll share another one in the chat. There's something really interesting to be said about like almost when you're building your business, thinking about how you're also building an impact report. And the reason why I say that, and hopefully it's like clear the way I'm saying it, is because it goes back to what Sarah and I were talking about at the beginning, which is around education. Communicating and translating the impact of your business and why you're doing what you're doing and why it's disruptive and innovative alongside financial returns. It's almost like communicating and translating it into an impact report to showcase to like investors and stakeholders why this actually matters and how it can generate revenue. There's this almost, and you'll read it even in this article, this idea of like green hushing, that you know, sustainability is not really a real thing. Everyone is talking about ESG. What does that actually mean? And basically show me the money. Like, are you actually generating returns? I think being early stage women entrepreneurs, it's such an exciting time because there's a way to start building that impact report so that when you start having conversations with stakeholders, you can really leverage that you've done your homework and you've done your research and you're interested in demonstrating how you plan to generate returns while also creating impact. So I'll almost like leave that piece there, happy to like elaborate on it. But yeah, I think it's just like an interesting take on, I feel like there's such a lack of like data and research out there. And that's why I think when it comes to that education piece, sometimes people just don't get it. So like almost how are you using your business to build that impact report for those future conversations that you'll be having, whether it's related to grants, whether it's related to a raise, whether it's just related to seeking out advisors and building your team of advisors and mentors. This is all about relationships, like truly cannot emphasize and underline that enough. And so I think just like the impact report piece, I think is something interesting to explore.
Thanks, Ashima. Yeah, that's a really great point. And thank you for sharing that as well. Any resources that have been shared in our chat as well, we'll add it to our resource guide afterwards so that you can have everything in one place. So if you miss anything, or if there's a file that you're not able to access, we will get that for you. But really great piece of advice coming from our speakers. Thank you so much. We have a few minutes left for our panel discussion, so I want to ensure if there's any attendees here today that had a question that they would like answered, I would like to give space for that. So if there's anyone that wants to raise their hand or put a question into the chat, I'm more than happy to facilitate that. Golden, yep, go right ahead.
Hi, thank you so much for that presentation. It was so digestible and relatable. I wanted to talk about the impact when it comes to getting grants, especially in an early stage as a founder. And I'm a social sustainable business, so I'm more so focused on the sustainable social growth side with mindset coaching, training, and things of that nature with well-being. And what would you say would be a good strategy on when it comes to creating case studies?
Great question, Golden. Who would like to take that?
Okay, so I guess my business is very different, I think, on yours because it's more of developing a process and a product instead of, coaching for people, but I guess it's similar in that. And so when you're going for, I think just, like for your case studies, if it's best to just in plain language, how are you helping? I think is the main thing, like going back to the impact report and things like that, understanding what the funding bodies are looking for and how you can use like those kind of words that they have in the applications and grants and things to intertwine those words into how you're describing what you do. And then that kind of like links it, to the grants that you're going for. Yeah, I don't know if you have anything else to add to that.
Yeah, I think that's such an interesting question because as someone who works as a coach, and I'm also in like the health and well-being space. I think that's such a fascinating question about how you translate that into grants. I think one of the things that I would say is, obviously, I'm sure you're doing this, creating a repository of the clients that you're working with and almost drafting case studies in a way of the timeline of events of your clients. So where were they before they met you and worked with you? What happened in the process as they were working with you? And then what was the aftermath and the future? That could be anything from, and I've seen this in the course of my own work, it could be anything from they were able to get a job with a higher pay and it was more aligned, I see a thumbs up, it was more aligned with their values. So it could be related to, let's say, career progression or career transition. It could be related to someone who left their 9-to-5 and started their own business, and their business has been doing, let's say, like XYZ in revenue, or they've been able to work with, a number of clients, or they've led some group sessions. And so they just hosted a group session with like a community organization. It's like, what are those tangible results that have come through your coaching? And the reason why I really emphasize that is because sometimes when it comes to translating mindset, even like I think of like meditation, yogic, like somatic practices, it can feel very like, oh, like airy-fairy. How can you ground the discussion to provide, these are the tangible outcomes and solutions that came out of my work? These are almost like the tangible templates and practices that I've used. And this is the experience that the client had in working with me for them to lead to this outcome or this consequence or this result. So it's like, how can you paint a picture of that timeline of events of pre, during, and post in your coaching and in your sessions with your clients? I think like building case studies that way makes it a lot more like just grounded, and translates what happens when people work with you. And I think that would also translate, you know, through a grant application as well.
That's such a better
answer than I said. Good job.
Yeah, that was real informative. It's interesting because so I had a client and they're now running for a counselor of the city. So when you said that, I'm like, wow, I'm already having a perfect case study right now, because that mindset shift to step into that such a prominent role is so phenomenal. And I called it like a feminine legacy. And I mean, thank you for that, because that the word grounding really, that popped in my head. Like, how can I make mindset, like woo-woo is what people think about it, but it's literally a legacy changer. Like, it's literally a societal changer if we all step into this era. So thank you so much for sharing that. I appreciate it a lot.
Yeah, super exciting to hear.
Amazing. Punita, I know you have a question. Oh, you'll just have to go off mute.
My question is, as a woman, it's hard to make investors believe in you. What advice would you give aside from the case study? And how much time does it take to make good relationships with the investors?
Yeah. So I think for me, it's not only being a woman, but also coming from like a design fashion background into founding a like science focused company. I've faced like a lot of dismissiveness and underestimating, and, you know, being told, oh, you're not going to understand this, or just like spoken to like really disrespectfully. People aren't taking you serious. It's something definitely both my co-founder Roya and I have had to deal with. And I think it comes with confidence, self-confidence, and knowing like there's sometimes when you're interacting with the wrong investors, like there are the right investors out there and you have to find them, but it's a long journey to get in front of them. And just remembering like you are the knowledge holder of your own company, right? Like, you know it better than anyone else.
Yeah.
And so keeping that self-confidence and I think is really important. And again, like having my co-founder and leaning on her is very helpful in this. But I definitely think it's a road to get to those right investors, but they're out there. And so you have to find those ones. And at the beginning, it's kind of like, you know, you just want to talk to people who invest because you need that funding right now.
Yeah.
But maybe putting together kind of profiles for the kind of investor that you want involved in your company, and then actively searching out those people will have a better experience and better outcome than just standing in front of anyone who says that they're an investor, because they're not all going to get it. And you don't want those people who don't get it involved in your business, right? But at times it's like, we really need this right now. So it is like, it's a difficult position, but there are people and organizations out there that are trying to change things for women identifying people and just in general, like white male founders. And it helps to build that network of people who are similar to you and have similar experiences, but also people who are dissimilar to you. And, you know, you can't be just in a room talking to women about how women are treated, you know, wrongly, right?
Yeah.
Like if the people who are doing the wrong treatment need that education as well. And so a lot of the organizations or events or support that is for women founders also needs to be externalized and taught to men investors or those people, you know, like you can't change it by just talking in a circle, but it is really important to have that network that can support and you can vent and share and share resources. So it's a bit of, I think, both of those. But one thing I have realized is beware of men who brag about how much they support women. Oh, I'm the biggest supporter of women. Oh, I do so much support for women. And then they just kind of talk in a circle to each other about how like nice they are by supporting women. It kind of makes you feel like, you know, there's something wrong with you for being a woman in business. Okay. We can stand on our own and be, you know, yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. Armida, I believe you've had your hand raised for a question.
Yes. Hi, everyone. Thanks, Sarah, for saying that, because that's kind of like a good segue into my question. So I am a circular ag processing startup founder, and I find myself in a space that is predominantly male and white. Apologies to everyone. So I'm kind of the outsider in that space. And so as a founder, I find that something, in my opinion, that would have taken, if it was a man, for example, just a couple of years or maybe even a year to get done. I have been at it for almost 4 years now. So what would you recommend, or what would you suggest for founders, female founders, who find themselves to be like on the outside of things, trying to do groundbreaking work? So what we are doing is upcycling the byproducts of the beef industry from processing. We're upcycling them into protein-dense meat products and snacks. But the main challenges we found, one is supply chain, building our supply chain. So getting the people who are doing the wasting right now to convert and feed into us. That has been a significant challenge, especially because we're trying to get people who are federally licensed. Some will just not respond, for example, and some will not respond until somebody they know talk to them. And that has been an uphill battle. So what do you recommend, or how do you think that one can break that barrier? Because I can't get that within the women network, for example. There are no women there.
Yeah, it is really hard, but like I wonder if you could, how many beef farmers are women that you could connect and try and build that relationship with and start off with that. It is so hard to find the right people to connect with when you're constantly surrounded by, like naysayers, and you're trying to innovate in an area hasn't been innovated in before. For the emotional, I think for everyone, it's important to have your mission and clear value, and keep coming back and rereading it, because it's so easy to get lost and kind of beaten down, and you have to be a little delusional in your idea and that this is going to work, because there's so many negative no's that you just have to keep pushing through it. But timing and just the chance meeting of the right kind of people can just catapult, be that instant change that you need to get that success. So I know it's not super great advice, but just again, searching out those people that aren't right in front of your face, finding those right kind of people that can connect you to the right kind of person, and just don't ever stop talking about what you're doing. And also don't be afraid of asking for things. When I first started this, my mindset was I'm not going to ask for that much stuff. I wasn't used to that. And now if you kind of have to just constantly be asking everyone you meet in a way that's not the first thing you meet is hey, can you connect me to, your network, but building relationships, and then asking who those people know, how they're connected to what you do, because sometimes it's the most random connection that then puts you in front of somebody who's really beneficial for your company. So just always asking for things that you need, even if it's a little uncomfortable, can start those connections that can lead to something really valuable. But yeah, it's definitely tough.
I think the only two things I would quickly add to that, because I see Isabel's comment, which relates back to the previous question as well, is I think it's so true. There is a sense of like being so unapologetic about you and about, you know, what you're building. And, you know, like Aramide, even in you saying like, oh, like I'm surrounded by white men, like there's nothing to apologize about that. That's like super factual. So it's like, how can you, and when I say how can you, I mean, this journey is such a progression. It's not like you're trying to achieve perfection. So learning that sense of like being unapologetic about what you're building, about asking for support, comes through practice. That's like number one. And then the second thing that I would say is we as women are inundated with all of the stats and all of the things about less than 2% of women get XYZ. That's even less for women of color. And it's like, I know, we all know that. You don't need to actually tell me that. I think I know. So it's like and I think it's so, not to go into a whole tangent, but like it's so this idea of like lack and scarcity is so embedded, and you're going to hear it all the time and constantly. And so I love Sarah's advice about going back to your core values and focusing on knowing that there are an abundance of allies, of women, of fund managers, of investors, of people who want to talk with you. Because yes, trust you will get tons of no's, and also trust that you will get a yes. Whether that's through advice, guidance, money, whether that's monetary capital or social capital, like it will happen. So how can you continue to stay in not a lack and scarcity of like, oh my God, there's just not enough money and there's not enough people and whatever, but focus on what are my values and knowing that it'll be really tough, but yes, you will find the people who want to support what you're doing.
Yeah. And I think for myself, I like have a little mind trick. I guess not mind trick because I truly believe it, but sometimes when I'm speaking to these older men who are in these positions of power that have the things that I'm trying to, you know, that I might need, and they don't believe in you, it's almost like, I feel sorry for you because I'm going to prove you wrong. And you're going to be so like, I hope that you're embarrassed that you thought this of me because, you know, like you're the one who's going to be left in my dust and things are changing. So get ready for that. So I don't know, it like helps me kind of like reconfigure that thought in my mind instead of being like, oh my God, they also don't believe in me. It's like, well, I feel sorry for you because you're about to see what I can do. And that kind of helps me keep my confidence up.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Armida. I hope that answered your question. And thank you to everyone who answered or asked a question rather. We're going to go into our breakout rooms now. So we'll have roughly 5 to 6 people per room, and